All right, everyone, get ready for this, because today we're going deep, deep into black magic.
Ooh.
But not just, like, the theoretical stuff. We're talking about how it's described by people who say they've, actually experienced it or even practiced it. We've got some seriously fascinating material to work with for this one.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. It's a collection of hypnotic regression transcripts, like real sessions, where people describe, well, some pretty wild experiences. A lot of it's really unsettling.
You know, what I find so interesting is that these aren't just like stories, right?
Wow.
Or myths or legends passed down through generations.
Right.
We're talking about people who are in a deep, altered state of consciousness and believe they are accessing buried memories.
Exactly. And let me tell you, some of these accounts, wow, they're just mind-blowing. Rituals, symbols, encounters with, well, I don't want to spoil it all yet. Let's just say there are some strange entities involved.
There are. And the thing is, there are these commonalities that crop up again and again across different individuals, different backgrounds, different time periods even. That's what we're going to be focusing on today.
That's right. The patterns, the threads that connect these seemingly random, disparate experiences. We're looking for clues, trying to piece together a bigger picture.
It's like putting together a puzzle, a very strange and mysterious puzzle.
Absolutely. So let's start with one of the biggest themes that kind of just jumps out at you right away, like immediately. The idea that black magic has one very specific purpose control. It seems like, I don't know, almost everyone in these regressions, they describe it as this force, this energy for manipulating people, for bending them to someone else's will.
It's about power, whether it's used for personal gain, to hurt someone, or just to exert power over others. That desire for control, it really does seem to be at the very core of black magic, at least according to what we're seeing in these accounts.
Yeah. And here's where it gets really wild. Multiple individuals in these regressions, they're recalling, seeing black magic being used thousands of years ago, but they claim it wasn't humans who started it, not originally.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme, and it's pretty unsettling. I mean, several people describe encountering beings that seem to have a specific agenda, a desire to control and dominate, humanity, us.
Like Tamra, for instance.
Yeah.
In her regression, she goes back to a scene with this entity, this being. It had an elongated skull, and she described it using telepathy to control this man.
Right, and with Valeria's regression, we see a different aspect of this. It's equally vivid, but she describes a medieval forest. There are these figures in cloaks, a bonfire, and they're performing this ritualistic sacrifice.
Sacrifice, like an animal sacrifice.
Well, she doesn't specify, but the purpose of the ritual, she says, is to open a portal.
Okay, now a portal, that's a whole other level of weird, right? What kind of portal are we talking about here?
Well, according to Valeria, the portal, it's meant to bring in dark energies, to tap into some source of power that could be used for manipulation, for control.
Okay, so we've got these strange beings, portals to other dimensions. The idea that black magic might not even be a human invention, like at all, that it's something that was introduced or even imposed on us from somewhere else. I don't know, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. It challenges our conventional understanding of history,
Yep.
of power, really. And it raises this question, this fundamental question. Are we really masters of our own destiny? Or are there these unseen forces influencing us in ways we can't even fathom?
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so let's say black magic, as described in these regressions, it's all about control. It might not even be from here. But how has it changed over time? Is it still the same as it was thousands of years ago?
That's the thing, While that core purpose, that need for control seems to have remained, the methods, the ways of doing it, they've definitely evolved. Think about like technology. Yeah. The fundamental principles might be the same, but the tools, the techniques, they get more sophisticated over time.
Right. So it's not all about chanting in Latin and sacrificing goats anymore. Although I got to say, those images, they are pretty vivid in some of these accounts.
Oh, absolutely. But you also see examples where black magic seems to be incorporating more modern ideas, like Valeria, for instance. She describes symbols and practices that blend ancient traditions with more contemporary concepts.
Interesting. And it's not just limited to one particular culture or location, is it?
Yeah.
These people are all from different backgrounds, different parts of the world. These regressions suggest that black magic is practiced all over the place, in all kinds of forms.
It really does. These accounts consistently describe it as this global phenomenon. It's not confined to any one region or belief system.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? I mean, if this is a force for control that's been around for thousands of years, it would have had plenty of time to spread and adapt to different cultures.
Exactly, and you see that reflected in Svetlana's account. She talks about how black magic is used in vastly different ways depending on the location and the circumstances. For example, she suggests that in some parts of the world, especially in regions where there's a lot of poverty, black magic is often seen as a tool for survival,
Mhm.
a way to kind of gain an advantage in a difficult situation.
Survival. Interesting. So it's not always about, like, harming others or, getting rich.
Not necessarily. She specifically mentions Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands, where people might use it for things like healing, protection, or even to try to influence the weather.
Wow. So it's like black magic. It's this multifaceted tool. It can be used for, I guess, for good or for evil, right?
Yeah.
Depending on who's using it and what their intention is.
That seems to be a recurring theme. It's not the magic itself that's inherently good or bad, but the way it's used, the motivations behind it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the purpose of black magic, its potential origins, how it's evolved, and how it's global. But what about the actual methods? Like, what kind of tools and practices are we talking about?
Well, that's where things get, well, quite fascinating, to say the least. There's this wide range of symbols, rituals, and techniques that are described. Some of them, they're familiar. Some are, well, pretty bizarre and kind of unsettling.
Okay, I think I'm ready for the unsettling part. Hit me with some details.
Well, for starters, there are symbols. Some are pretty recognizable, like the pentagram, the six-pointed star.
Yeah, okay, I know those.
But the meanings can vary wildly depending on the context and the intention behind them. It's not just about the symbol itself, but the energy that's imbued in it, you know?
Right, right. Like, it's not that the pentagram itself is evil. It's how it's being used.
Exactly. It's the intent, the focus, the will of the practitioner that gives these symbols their power.
I mean, some of this stuff is wild. Like Svetlana, she describes these 3D symbols that can actually manipulate space. That's like science fiction stuff.
It is. It really challenges our understanding of physics, of reality even, and it connects to what Valeria mentions about the evil eye and imagery associated with figures like Aleister Crowley,
Oh yeah, Crowley. The whole do what thou wilt thing.
where symbols are used as focal points for channeling energy and trying to influence events.
So it's not just about the symbol itself, but about what the person, the practitioner, is doing with it, right?
Exactly. The symbol, it's like a conduit, a lens, and
Yeah.
the practitioner is focusing their intention through it.
Okay, so let's talk about those intentions.
Mm.
What are some of the specific ways that black magic is used to, like, harm or manipulate people? According to these regressions, I mean.
Well, one of the most consistent things they describe is that black magic is an attack on a person's energy field, and that can have a wide range of negative consequences, physical and mental.
Energy field. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, think of it like an aura. This subtle energy body that surrounds us and kind of permeates our physical being. It's often described as our shield, our protection against negativity.
So black magic is trying to get through our defenses and mess with our energy.
You could say that. And the effects can be really disturbing. Like Svetlana, she talks about people feeling drained, like their energy is being siphoned off and they're just, withering away.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of feeling tired,
Yeah.
right? I mean, some of these people describe some serious health problems, mental and physical, that
Yep.
seem to be directly linked to this stuff.
Right. And Eugenia, she specifically links black magic to negative emotions like fear, grief, loss. She says those emotions, they can become, like entry points, weak spots in our armor that black magic can exploit.
Oh, that's scary. Like, these negative emotions, they make us more vulnerable, more susceptible.
It's like a virus, that preys on our weaknesses.
Man, this is getting pretty intense. So is there any way to protect ourselves from this? Like, can we become immune to black magic?
That's the question, isn't it? And it comes up a lot in these regressions. The answer, well, it's a little more complicated than a simple yes or no.
Good, because if it was that simple, I'd be very skeptical.
Right. So what these individuals seem to suggest, it's more about awareness. you know, cultivating a strong will and understanding that we have a choice in how we respond to any threat. Remember what Svetlana said about the meat grinder?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She said, we created the meat grinder and we don't have to put our hand in it.
Exactly. It's about not engaging with the energy, not feeding it with our fear or our belief in it. And Eugenia, she describes this image, this beautiful shining light emanating from those who are immune. It's like their inner strength, their light is repelling the darkness.
Wow. Okay, that's actually pretty empowering.
It is. It's about realizing that we're not as powerless as we might think. But what about those who practice black magic? Do they ever suffer any consequences? Is there like a magical backlash?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. It seems like there can be repercussions for both the practitioner and the person who requested the black magic.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah.
what? Tell me more.
Well, it seems that doubt, fear, any kind of negative emotion, it can create a pathway for the energy to kind of rebound like a boomerang. It comes back and often with more force than before.
Wow, so if you're going to play with fire, you better be really sure of yourself.
Yeah. Svetlana uses this image, this really vivid image of the energy snapping back like a rubber band.
Yeah.
It causes all kinds of distress, even physical harm.
Ouch. But then Tatiana, she adds a different perspective. She claims that a true black magician, they act as a pure channel. They're not affected by doubt or fear. That's an interesting concept. You see it in some esoteric traditions. The idea of achieving a state of detachment.
Detachment.
Or
Like that.
becoming like an instrument for the energy, without getting personally entangled in it.
Like a surgeon performing an operation. Detached and precise, but still, potentially doing some damage.
It's a good analogy. The skill and precision of the surgeon, they don't negate the ethical implications of the procedure. And that brings us to a pretty controversial topic, the role of religion in all of this.
Oh boy. Yeah. Tatiana, she makes a pretty bold claim. She says that all religions, especially Christianity, are, and I quote, perverted branches of black magic.
Her reasoning is that they use rituals and dogma to control and manipulate people, which, if you think about it objectively, there's a point there. Rituals, symbols, hierarchies, you see those in both organized religion and black magic.
And she specifically calls out practices like baptism and funerals. She says they're black magic rituals meant to, control people and take their energy and money.
It's a provocative claim, no doubt, and one that would probably offend a lot of people. But it's important to remember that we're looking at this from the perspective of these individuals in these hypnotic regressions. We're not endorsing any particular belief system, just exploring the ideas.
Right, exactly. We're presenting the information, the stories, and letting you, the listener, decide what you think. But speaking of stories, I have to tell you about this real-life example that a friend of mine told me about.
Oh, this should be good.
It's about this woman who she was having trouble conceiving. She really wanted to have a baby, but she couldn't get pregnant. So she goes to see this shaman, for help.
Shamanism and black magic, they often intersect?
Right. So the shaman, he performs this ritual, and it involves black chicken.
Oh, wow.
But not just any chicken. It's one that the woman felt this connection to. She actually talks to the chicken and asks for its help.
That's really interesting. Incorporating an animal sacrifice, it's common in a lot of magical traditions. It's often seen as a way to transfer or absorb negative energy.
And it's exactly what seems to happen. The shaman, he does this thing, and, well, it's like he transfers her negative energy, the blockage, into the chicken. And, well, the chicken doesn't make it.
And the woman.
She feels instant relief. It's like the ritual just cleared something in her energy field and removed the obstacle that was preventing her from getting pregnant.
That's pretty remarkable. It raises an interesting question about the role of the practitioner, the shaman in this case, as a kind of intermediary, between the person and these forces they're trying to work with.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, was he using black magic? Was it something else? I mean, how can you tell the difference between someone who's genuinely trying to help and someone who's trying to exploit people?
That's the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. It can be incredibly difficult to see someone's true intentions.
Especially when you're dealing with, with unseen forces and stuff.
Right. But one thing to remember is this. Someone who is truly free from that need to control or manipulate, They wouldn't perform rituals to harm others or to try to bend their will, you know?
So if someone is pushing you to do something that feels wrong, or if they're promising you power over other people, that's a red flag, right?
Definitely something to be wary of. Remember, true power, it comes from within, from aligning with your authentic self, not from trying to dominate other people.
Yeah, that's some good advice.
It is.
So after hearing all of this, all these accounts, I'm struck by how much they have in common. Even though everyone's experience is unique, there's this pattern, this underlying narrative about what black magic is and what it does.
That consistency, it's what makes this so compelling. It suggests that there's something more to these experiences than just, imagination.
Right. Like if one person said they saw a dragon, you might think, okay, sure. But if 10 people, all from different places, with no connection to each other, if they all describe seeing the same dragon, well then you got to start wondering.
Exactly. And that's the power of these regressions. They offer a glimpse into this realm, this reality that's often dismissed as just superstition or folklore.
But these accounts, they make you wonder if there's more to it.
They do. And the way they challenge our conventional understanding of things like power, control, the nature of reality itself.
It's almost like we're being asked to consider that there are forces at play in the universe that we don't fully understand. Forces that might be influencing us in ways we're not even aware of.
It can be a little unsettling.
It can.
Yeah.
But it can also be, kind of exciting. Because if we acknowledge that these unseen forces might exist, then we can start to think about how to protect ourselves, how to empower ourselves, how to take back control of our own destinies.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore next. We're going to dive into some of the specific techniques, the mindset shifts that these individuals describe as being helpful in mitigating the effects of black magic and reclaiming their personal power.
Awesome. So much more to unpack here. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of protection and empowerment, let's just take a second to think about what we've learned so far.
Okay.
What stands out to you? What resonates?
I think for me, it's that consistency, the patterns that keep emerging. It hints at a deeper truth,
Yeah.
a reality that we're only just beginning to grasp.
And it's important to remember, these aren't just abstract concepts, right?
Mhm.
We're talking about real people, their actual experiences.
Mhm.
And what they're sharing gives us this peek into a world that's often dismissed as fantasy or delusion.
And whether or not we believe in black magic, I think there's something to be learned from these stories, something that can help us understand ourselves, the world around us, and the unseen forces that might be shaping our lives a little bit more.
Well said. And on that note, we'll be back in a moment to get into the practical stuff. How to protect ourselves, how to cultivate our inner strength, and how to navigate this complex and often very mysterious world of black magic. So, stay tuned.
Welcome back to our Black Magic Deep Dive. Before we left off, we were talking about those common threads running through the hypnotic regressions, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. And it really gets you thinking about how, even though these are all different people, different backgrounds, different experiences, there's this underlying structure, this like shared understanding of what black magic is and how it works.
It's like they're all tapping into some universal source of knowledge, maybe, or like Carl Jung would say, the collective unconscious.
Right. Like they're all describing different sides of the same, I don't know, the same diamond, different angles on this hidden reality.
And one of the most fascinating things is, black magic, despite being so ancient, it's adapted to the modern world.
It's like what is it? The more things change, the more they stay the same. The tools and techniques might be different now, but that core desire for control, for manipulating people, for power, that's still there.
It's a constant. And that's where the whole discussion of protection and empowerment becomes so important. If black magic really is this pervasive force, something that can like sneak into any part of our lives, then we need to know how to protect ourselves.
Okay, so let's get practical.
Mm-hmm.
What did these people in the regressions say about how to protect themselves? What are they doing to
stay safe? Well, the biggest thing that came up again and again was awareness. It's about paying attention to our thoughts, to our feelings, to what's going on around us, and noticing any little changes, any shifts that might signal some kind of energy messing with us.
Yeah, like being mindful, but with energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's about developing a sensitivity to your own energy field and how it interacts with the world around you.
And what about boundaries? Did those help?
Definitely. A lot of the people in these regressions, they talked about setting up strong boundaries, energetic boundaries. It's like creating a protective shield around yourself.
Like an energy fence to keep out the bad vibes.
Exactly. And there are lots of different ways to do that. You can visualize it, you can use crystals, talismans, things like that.
So awareness, boundaries.
Yeah.
And what about, just being a strong person? Does that like inner strength, self-belief, all that?
It seems to be really important. A lot of them talked about how their level of self-esteem, their sense of self-worth was directly related to their ability to withstand like black magic attacks.
Then the stronger you are inside, the less likely you are to be affected.
It's like the more confident you are, the less space there is for that negativity to latch onto.
I love that. It's like instead of being afraid of the dark, you'd turn on the light inside yourself.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why things like meditation, mindfulness, even just saying positive affirmations to yourself, they can be so powerful.
So it's not just about protecting yourself from the outside, but about like building yourself up from the inside too.
It's both. It's about taking a holistic approach, addressing all the factors, both internal and external, that affect your well-being.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, man, I've been feeling really drained lately and unlucky, like there's some kind of blockage. Could that be black magic?
Yeah.
And if it is, what can they do?
Well, it's important to remember that not every bad thing that happens is because of black magic. I mean, there could be lots of reasons why you're feeling that way. Stress, your diet, even just a medical condition.
Right, so we don't want to jump to conclusions.
No. But if someone's got a strong intuition that something's off, or if they've tried other things and nothing's helped, then maybe it's worth considering that there's some kind of energetic interference going on.
Okay, so what would you do then?
Well, you could talk to an energy healer, someone who specializes in clearing and balancing energy fields.
Are there's like different types of energy
Oh
healing?
yeah, tons. There's Reiki, acupuncture, shamanic practices, sound healing, all sorts of things.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Yeah. And finding a practitioner that you trust, someone who's ethical and experienced.
Makes sense. But what about like the more extreme cases like we saw in the regressions where there's this really deliberate attack? What do you do then?
Well, one of the most common things people talked about was removing yourself from the situation,
Yeah.
cutting off contact with the person or entity that's causing the harm.
Oh, like a physical boundary
Yeah.
as well as an energetic one.
Right. It's about creating distance and limiting the opportunities for further harm.
But what if you can't avoid them? Like what if it's someone you work with or a family member?
That's when visualization can be really helpful. A lot of people talked about using visualization to create this protective barrier around themselves, to deflect the negative energy and keep their own energy safe.
So like an invisible shield.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. You could visualize a bubble of white light surrounding you, or a mirror reflecting the negative energy back to where it came from.
Okay, those are some pretty cool techniques. But what about just like in everyday life? Are there things we can do to keep our energy clean?
Yeah, definitely. Even simple things like taking a bath with salt in it, smudging with sage, spending time in nature, those can all help to clear out any stagnant energy and restore balance.
So it's like taking an energy shower.
Yeah, exactly. It's about energetic hygiene. It's just as important as physical hygiene. We have to be mindful of the energies we're exposed to and take steps to cleanse and protect ourselves regularly.
I like that energetic hygiene. It makes it sound, I don't know, less mystical, I guess. More like
Yeah.
something anyone can do.
Right. And that's the key, isn't it? Finding ways to integrate these practices into our everyday lives to make them accessible and sustainable.
It's making me realize this whole conversation about black magic, it's not just about protecting ourselves from some outside force. It's also about empowering ourselves.
That's a great point. And I think that's one of the most valuable things we can take away from these regressions. They remind us that we're not helpless. We have the power to choose how we respond to challenges, to cultivate our inner strength, to create a better reality for ourselves.
And that's the message we all need to hear, I think. It's not about living in fear. It's about taking back our power. both individually and collectively.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this conversation so relevant, especially now, you know. We live in a world where it's so easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel powerless, but these regressions, they give us hope. They remind us that we have the potential to face these challenges with grace and resilience, you know.
And that's something we can all get behind. It's not about pretending the darkness isn't there. It's about learning to walk through it with our heads held high and our spirits strong.
Beautifully said. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up our Black Magic deep dive. But before we go, we'd love to hear from you, the listeners. What resonated with you? What questions do you still have? We're gonna read some listener comments and share some final thoughts on this fascinating and often challenging topic. So stick with us.
You know, after spending all this time with these accounts of black magic, I'm realizing it's not just about like spooky curses and rituals. You know, it's about power, really, like how we try to control each other, control the world around us.
That's a really good point. It's about the psychology of it all, you know, the sociology. Black magic, it's kind of like a reflection of our own dark side, you know, our own potential for manipulation and control.
It's like these regressions are giving us this way to look at that dark side, you know, to see those hidden desires, those motivations that drive us.
Right. And by understanding those motivations, by bringing them out into the open, we can start to break those patterns, those harmful patterns, and maybe create a better, more balanced way of relating to each other, you know?
Yeah. You know, one thing that really strikes me is that a lot of these people, even though they've been through some really heavy stuff with black magic, they don't seem like victims, you know. They're resilient. They're figuring things out, finding ways to empower themselves.
That's so important. It speaks to the transformative power of these experiences, you know. They're facing the darkness, confronting their fears, and they're coming out stronger on the other side.
But it gives hope, you know, to anyone who's struggling with similar things, whether it's black magic or any other kind of negativity, oppression, you know. It shows that we're not powerless.
We're not. We have a choice. We can choose how we respond, how we react. We can cultivate our strength, reclaim our sovereignty.
Okay, so let's talk about that, about reclaiming our power. You know, what do these people in the regressions say about how to do that?
Well, one of the most common things was connecting to something bigger than themselves.
Okay.
Whether it was spirituality, a connection to nature, or even just the sense of purpose, you know, finding meaning in their lives.
So it's like they're finding something to hold on to, you know, something outside of themselves to give them strength, to remind them of their worth.
Exactly. And that connection, it seems to help them detach from the drama of black magic, you know, to see it from a wider perspective, to regain that sense of agency.
And speaking of agency, a lot of them talked about taking action, right?
Yeah.
Like not just sitting back and letting things happen to them.
They were proactive. They were researching, learning about protection techniques, doing things to cleanse their energy, you know, taking control.
So it's about taking responsibility for your own well-being, you know.
Yes. Moving from a place of fear and victimhood to a place of empowerment.
Yeah.
Of taking charge.
Okay, so we've got connecting to something bigger, taking action. What else? Any other insights on reclaiming our power?
Well, this one might sound a little strange, but a lot of them talked about forgiveness.
Forgiveness? Really? That seems, I don't know, kind of counterintuitive. You know, we're talking about something as dark as black magic.
I know, but holding on to anger, resentment, it just keeps you trapped in that cycle of negativity. Forgiveness, it allows you to break free, to let go of the past, you know, to move forward.
So it's not about saying what happened was okay, but about letting go of the energy, the baggage that's weighing you down.
Exactly. And it's not easy. Forgiveness it's a process, but ultimately it's a gift you give yourself.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, thinking about forgiveness and healing, it reminds me of that story I told about the woman who went to the shaman because she couldn't get pregnant.
Oh, right. The one with the black chicken?
Yeah. It's a really powerful example of how magic, even black magic, can be used for healing, for positive change.
It shows how important it is to find practitioners who are aligned with good intentions, you know, people who are using their knowledge to help others, not to manipulate or control them.
It's about discernment, right? Like trusting your gut, asking questions, being aware of of people's intentions, especially when you're dealing with energy and consciousness.
And ultimately, the best protection we have is our own inner wisdom, you
Yeah.
know, our own connection to what's true, what's right.
And that's not something that black magic can take away from you.
No, it's not. It's a source of strength that we all have inside of us.
Well, I think that's a great place to end our deep dive. We've gone deep into the dark side of magic, the potential for harm and manipulation, but we've also discovered a lot about how to protect ourselves, how to cultivate our inner strength, how to reclaim our power.
It's been a really fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners have gained some valuable insights from it.
Me too. And I want to thank everyone for listening, for coming along with us on this exploration. I know this is a topic that can bring up a lot of different emotions, a lot of questions.
It can, and we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, to talk about them, to connect with others who are interested in this stuff.
Because ultimately, this is about so much more than just black magic, right? It's about taking back our power,
Yeah.
about living our best lives, about creating a world where darkness doesn't win.
Yeah. Well said.
So until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and keep shining your light.